The reinforced combat training room, built to withstand orbital bombardment, just developed structural cracks, and the human girl's fist hasn't even finished its swing. Korvax watched from the observation deck as Vexthul's boot connected with Zilax's thorax for the third time. The insectoid cadet's chitinous plating cracked audibly, green ichor spreading across the floor. Standard strength assessment. The weak learned their place, or they washed out. 20 cycles as senior drill instructor had taught Korvax that simple truth. "Please," Zilax wheezed, all four arms wrapped protectively around his midsection. "I'll submit to remedial." "Remedial?" Vexthul laughed, his predator species fangs gleaming. "You're not even worth remedial training." He drew his leg back for another kick. Jotaro and Arhil circled, ensuring Zilax couldn't crawl away. 3 senior cadets, 1 failure. Mathematics of hierarchy. The training room door opened with a pneumatic hiss. According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Emma Johnson entered carrying equipment bins, her small human frame struggling under the weight. She wore the standard cadet uniform, though hers bore the special designation patch, marking her as part of the Terran exchange program. 22 rotations old, according to her file, unremarkable physical metrics, averaged in all combat assessments. She saw Zilax, saw the blood, saw Vexthul's raised boot. The equipment bins hit the floor with a crash. "Stop," she said. Vexthul glanced at her, amusement rippling through his translator. "The human speaks. How adorable." He turned back to Zilax. "Watch and learn your place, soft-worlder." Emma's jaw tightened. "I said stop," Rahil snorted. "Or what? You'll file a complaint?" The 3 seniors laughed, the sound echoing off walls designed to contain plasma fire. Emma walked toward them. Not toward Vexthul, toward the wall. Her right hand curled into a fist, her movement deceptively casual, almost lazy. Korvax leaned forward in the observation deck, mildly curious. Humans didn't interfere in strength hierarchies. Their own military files confirmed they understood dominant structures. Emma's fist moved. The combat computer registered the threat signature before Korvax's brain processed what he was seeing. Alert. Kinetic impact, exceeding design parameters. Alert. Structural integrity, compromise imminent. The wall, rated to withstand direct artillery strikes, developed a spiderweb of cracks radiating from where Emma's knuckles hadn't quite made contact yet. The punch was still traveling, still accelerating, time seeming to slow as the impossible unfolded. "What?" Vexthul started. Emma's fist connected. The wall exploded inward. Not cracked, not damaged. Exploded, reinforced military-grade composite material designed by the galaxy's finest engineers, disintegrated like compressed sand. Chunks of wall flew across the room, embedding in the opposite surface. A hole 3 meters wide opened where solid structure had existed. Milliseconds before, emergency klaxons screamed. Red warning lights strobed. The room's AI initiated evacuation protocols automatically, its threat assessment subroutines rewriting themselves in real time, trying to classify what just happened. Korvax hit the emergency containment button. Force fields should have descended, sealing the training room. Nothing happened. The human strike had somehow damaged systems 3 decks away. Emma stepped through the destroyed wall, dust settling on her shoulders. She didn't look angry. She looked disappointed. "I said stop." She brushed debris off her uniform. "You really don't listen well, do you?" Vexthul stared at her, then at the obliterated wall, his predator brain trying to recalculate threat assessments. He was 2 meters taller than the human. His species had conquered 12 systems through pure physical dominance. His combat scores ranked top percentile academy-wide. He decided the wall was a fluke, structural weakness. He turned back to Zilax, raising his boot again. Establishing dominance meant not flinching. Emma crossed the distance between them faster than Korvax's combat-trained eyes could track. One moment she was by the ruined wall. The next, her hand wrapped around Vexthul's ankle, stopping his kick mid-swing. Vexthul tried to pull free. His leg didn't move. He pulled harder, engaging his full strength, the strength that let his species hunt megafauna bare-handed. Emma's grip didn't budge. Her fingers began tightening. His combat armor started to crumple. What? The metal alloy designed to disperse plasma burns compressed under her grip like soft clay. Warning indicators on his suit flashed critical. That's impossible. Is it? Emma's voice remained conversational, but something in her eyes made Vexthul's predator instincts scream. Let me tell you what's impossible. 3 trained fighters beating someone already down. That's what's impossible where I come from. She released him, and he stumbled back. Jotaro and Arhill moved to flank her, their training overriding common sense. Academy doctrine, numerical superiority always wins. The biometric sensors embedded in the training room registered force readings that made Korvax's secondary heart stutter. The human's grip strength had exceeded 50,000 psi. That was impossible. Humans averaged 200 psi. The sensors had to be malfunctioning. The Academy-wide emergency broadcast activated. Code Black in Training Room 7. All senior staff respond. Potential extinction-level entity. Extinction-level entity. The classification reserved for cosmic threats. For one human girl. Emma ignored the alarms, kneeling beside Zilax. Hey, you okay? Those assholes do this often? Zilax stared at her with compound eyes gone wide with shock. The wall. Yeah, sorry about that. I get a little intense when I'm pissed. She helped him sit up, her movements gentle now, the same hands that pulverized military architecture now, carefully checking his injuries. How bad does it hurt? My thorax. Right, that's your important bit. Okay, we need medical. Can you stand, or should I carry you? Vexthul, recovering his courage with distance, growled. You don't give orders here, human. This is Academy business. Traditional strength assessment. Emma's head snapped toward him. She didn't stand, didn't move, just looked at him. Vexthul took 3 involuntary steps backward. Traditional? Emma's voice dropped to something colder than void. You have a tradition of 3 people kicking someone who's already down? The training room door burst open. Academy Commander Kailthas entered with a full security battalion, 20 armed guards. Weapons drawn, shields activated. Behind them, medical personnel waited with emergency equipment. Kailthas assessed the situation in microseconds. Destroyed wall, 3 cadets in defensive postures, 1 human kneeling with an injured cadet, and threat warnings screaming from every sensor in the facility. Security, restrain the... Don't! Emma didn't look up from examining Zilax's injuries. I'm helping someone hurt by these 3. You really want to point weapons at me for that? Kailthas gestured, and the security team lowered their weapons fractionally. His career hadn't survived 3 fleet actions by ignoring instinct, and his instinct screamed that threatening this human was catastrophically stupid. Cadet Johnson, he said carefully, you've destroyed Academy property rated to withstand. Yeah, I noticed. She finally looked up, and Kailthas understood why Vexthul had backed away. Nothing obvious threatened in her expression, just complete, absolute certainty. Was that wall more important than him? She gestured to Zilax, still leaking green blood across the floor. This was a sanctioned training exercise. Korvax's voice crackled over the observation deck speakers. Strength assessment is Academy protocol. Emma stood slowly. The building trembled. Kailthas checked his instruments. Seismic sensors registered the vibration from 1 human standing up. Sanctioned, Emma repeated. You watched 3 people beat him, and you did nothing. That was your job. You watched. Her voice didn't rise. Somehow that made it worse. Let me explain something about humans, Emma said, addressing Kailthas now. We have this weird thing we do. When we see someone getting hurt, someone weaker being victimized, we don't calculate the politics. We don't consider the tradition. We stop it. It's not heroism, it's not bravery, it's just what you do. Your species files indicate you understand hierarchical structures, Kael'thas said. Your own military. Our military? Emma laughed, the sound devoid of humor. You want to talk about Earth's military? Fine. You know what we do to soldiers who abuse the weak? We court-martial them. You know what we do to officers who allow it? We destroy their careers. You know why? Shai took a step toward Kael'thas. Every weapon in the room tracked her movement. Because strength isn't about dominating those weaker than you. Strength is protecting them. Any idiot with a gun can terrorize someone unarmed. That's not strength. That's just being an asshole with a weapon. The words hung in the air. Kael'thas had commanded fleets, had made decisions that determined the fates of worlds, had graduated top of his cohort from this very academy under the same strength assessment protocols Emma was denouncing. His worldview cracked. Our protocols have served the academy for 300 cycles, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. And my people have been protecting the vulnerable for thousands of years before we even left our planet. Emma knelt again beside Xilax. Medical kit. Now, unless your protocols say he bleeds out while we debate. A medical technician rushed forward, seemingly relieved to have a clear task. Emma moved aside, letting the professional work, but stayed close to Xilax. It's okay, she told the injured cadet. You're safe now. You destroyed a wall, Xilax whispered. For me? Well, yeah. Seemed like the thing to do. She glanced at the ruined structure. Probably could have just knocked, but I was mad. Kael'thas watched this exchange while his tactical computer tried to calculate threat responses for a being who could demolish fortified structures while mad. All projections ended with insufficient data or recommend immediate evacuation of planet. Cadet Johnson, he said finally, your actions today have... Stopped an assault, Emma interrupted. That's what my actions did. They stopped 3 people from continuing to hurt someone who couldn't fight back. If your protocols have a problem with that, your protocols are garbage. The strongest survive, Vex Thule said from where he stood against the far wall. That's how the galaxy works. Emma looked at him with something approaching pity. The strongest alone dies first. That's how nature works. You know what survives? Groups, packs, tribes, units. You know why? Because when one of us falls, the others don't kick them. They pick them up. She stood as medical personnel loaded Xilax onto a hovering stretcher. I'm going with him to medical, Emma announced, unless someone wants to stop me. 20 weapons, 40 trained soldiers, 1 human who demolished a military installation's wall with her bare hand. No one moved. Emma walked past Kael'thas, past the security battalion, through the ruined doorway she'd created. Medical personnel scrambled to follow with Xilax. In the sudden silence, Kael'thas accessed his command console, pulling up Emma's file. Cadet Emma Johnson. Human. Exchange program participant. Physical assessment. Average across all metrics. Combat rating. Moderate. Threat level. Minimal. He looked at the destroyed wall, at the crushed armor still bearing the imprint of her fingers, at the seismic readings from her simply standing. Computer, he said slowly, update Cadet Johnson's threat assessment. Calculating, the AI responded. Unable to establish upper parameters, human strength limitations unknown. Recommend classification upgrade to unknown, potentially unlimited. Potentially unlimited, Kael'thas repeated. She's one human. Analysis indicates human military doctrine focuses heavily on unit cohesion and protection of fellow soldiers, the AI continued. References to leave no one behind appear in 97% of human military communications. Protective response appears to be species-wide cultural imperative, not individual anomaly. Kael'thas felt his blood chill. All humans? Insufficient data to confirm, But cultural evidence suggests protective behavior is considered baseline morality in human civilization. By the ancestors, Korvax breathed over the speakers, we rated them as physically average because they were holding back. Holding back considerably, the AI confirmed. Cadet Johnson's wall strike registered at less than estimated 5% of human combat potential based on comparative Earth military equipment analysis. 5%. She'd demolished military architecture while barely trying. "Commander," Jotaro said quietly, "what do we do?" Kael'thas looked at the 3 senior cadets who'd been beating Zilax, looked at Korvax in the observation deck who'd watched it happen, looked at the procedures and protocols that had seemed unquestionable an hour ago. "We adapt," he said. 3 days later, Kael'thas stood before the Academy Council's emergency session. Every senior officer in the quadrant attended, either physically or via holoconference. The incident had gone up the chain of command faster than a distress beacon. The human exchange program was a diplomatic initiative, Admiral Sinara said from her flagship. Low-risk cultural exchange, humans rated as average in all combat assessments. "Those assessments were catastrophically incorrect," Kael'thas replied. He transmitted the data: wall destruction, armor crushing, seismic readings, the works. Humans self-limit. They consciously hold back their physical capabilities in normal situations. "Why would any species do that?" another admiral asked. "Because they live among themselves," Kael'thas said, "among other humans. They limit their strength to avoid accidentally harming their own people. It's automatic, unconscious, until they perceive a threat to someone they're protecting." "So they're triggered by protection scenarios?" "They're triggered by injustice," Kael'thas corrected. Cadet Johnson didn't protect Zilax because he was her friend. She'd never met him before. She protected him because he was being victimized. That's the distinction. Humans don't need a personal connection to respond protectively. They need only to perceive someone as vulnerable and under threat. The council chamber fell silent. "You're saying," Sinara spoke slowly, "that any human might respond this way to perceived injustice?" "Their entire civilization is built on the concept," Kael'thas said. "They call it human rights. The belief that all beings deserve protection from harm, regardless of strength, status, or utility. It's foundational to their society." He pulled up historical data from Earth. They fought wars over it, created governments around it. Their strongest don't dominate their weakest, they protect them. It's not just unusual, it's unique in the galaxy. "And Instructor Korvax?" "Under arrest pending tribunal," Kael'thas said flatly. "He observed assault and did nothing. Under human influence, that's no longer acceptable by Academy standards." "Human influence?" An admiral bristled. "They don't set our standards." "Don't they?" Kael'thas met the admiral's gaze. "One human demolished a military installation because we allowed sanctioned bullying. What happens when Earth hears their exchange cadet discovered we systematically brutalize the weak as training methodology? What happens when a species capable of unlimited physical force decides we're morally unacceptable?" The implications settled over the council like ash. "Recommend immediate protocol revisions," Sinara said. "No strength assessments involving physical dominance. No hazing. No tolerance for abuse of weaker cadets." "Already implemented," Kael'thas confirmed. "Also recommend psychological evaluation for all cadets exposed to human protective behavior. Several are experiencing what humans call moral injury, psychological damage from participating in or witnessing actions they now recognize as wrong." "Humans are changing our fundamental military philosophy," an admiral said. "Yes," Kael'thas agreed, "and I think that's exactly what we need." Emma sat in the medical center beside Zilax's recovery bed, showing him pictures on her personal data pad. "That's my dog, Murphy, and that's my hometown. Pretty boring compared to space stations, but you came back," Zilax said quietly. "After everything." You came back. Well, yeah, wanted to make sure you're okay, she grinned. Plus, figured you might want someone to talk to. Hospital beds are boring in any galaxy. The door opened. Kael'thas entered, and Emma instinctively positioned herself between him and Zilax. The commander noticed. I'm not here to continue any assault, he said carefully. I'm here to apologize. Emma blinked. Oh, that's unexpected. Our protocols were wrong, Kael'thas said. Not just incorrect, morally wrong. You showed us that, forcefully. Yeah, sorry about the wall. Don't apologize for the wall. Apologize for not destroying it sooner. He looked at Zilax. Cadet, you have my formal apology. What was done to you will never happen again in this academy. Zilax's antennae trembled. Sir, Thank you, sir. Kael'thas turned to Emma. Your species has a phrase, be the change you wish to see. You've changed this academy in 3 days more than 3 centuries of tradition. The Council has implemented new protocols. No cadet will be hazed, brutalized, or subjected to strength assessments involving dominance again. Good, Emma said simply. The cadets who assaulted Zilax have been dishonorably discharged. Instructor Korvax faces court-martial. Also good. Kael'thas studied her. You're not surprised. Should I be? They did a bad thing. There are consequences. That's how it works. That's how it works on Earth, Kael'thas said. The rest of the galaxy is learning. After he left, Zilax looked at Emma. You really destroyed a wall for me. More like through a wall, technically. Why? Emma considered the question. Where I come from, we have this idea. You stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. Not because you get something from it, not because they're your friends, just because it's right. Because everyone deserves someone in their corner. I've never had anyone in my corner before. You do now, Emma smiled. Fair warning, though, I'm a terrible influence. Last week, I convinced 3 engineering cadets that humans can echolocate. They're still trying to make clicking sounds. Zilax's mandibles clicked, his species equivalent of laughter. The sound made Emma grin wider. There we go, healing already. 6 weeks later, Emma and Zilax walked through the Academy's newly renovated training center. The room where everything happened now bore a plaque. Training Room 7, dedicated to the principle that true strength protects, never dominates. They're teaching your intervention as a case study, Zilax said. Proper response to witnessing assault. Weird that don't let people get beaten up needs to be taught, but okay. Emma paused by the wall she'd destroyed, now fully repaired. Hey, I've been meaning to ask. You want to train together? I could use a sparring partner. You want to train with me? Zilax's antennae rose in surprise. But I'm not strong. Strength isn't everything. You're smart. Quick. And you've got 4 arms. That's 3 more than me. Imagine what you could do with proper technique instead of people just beating on you. Over the following weeks, Training Room 7 hosted an unusual sight. A human teaching an insectoid cadet defensive techniques while laughing and making terrible jokes. Other cadets gathered to watch, seeing something they'd never witnessed before. Training as collaboration, not competition. Emma showed Zilax how to use his multiple limbs for grappling advantages. He showed her how his species' flexibility allowed unexpected angles of attack. They failed together, laughed together, improved together. You're doing it wrong, Emma said as Zilax attempted a throw. No, I'm doing it wrong. Your body doesn't move like mine. We need to adapt the technique. Try... Wait, can you rotate that joint backward? Yes. Oh, that's cool. Okay, new approach. Other cadets joined. Species that had previously only trained within their own kind began mixing, learning from each other's differences instead of competing over them. Jotaro, one of the former bullies who'd been allowed to remain after extensive counseling, approached hesitantly. Could I learn too? Emma looked at him for a long moment. He'd helped beat Zilax. He'd laughed while doing it. Zilax, Emma said, What do you think? Zilak studied his former tormentor, then slowly extended one of his 4 hands. Everyone deserves someone in their corner, even people who were wrong before. Jotaro took the offered hand, his own trembling slightly. The training continued. The laughter grew louder. The academy adapted. Commander Kael'thas observed from the observation deck, the same position Korvax had occupied when everything changed. But now he watched collaboration where once he'd watched brutality. They're teaching each other, Admiral Sinara said from beside him, visiting to inspect the new protocols, sharing techniques across species lines. That's unprecedented. Humans call it cross-training, Kael'thas said. Apparently, they've been doing it for thousands of years. One human changed our entire military philosophy. One human showed us what our philosophy should have been all along. Kael'thas pulled up academy records. Combat effectiveness is up 17% across all cohorts. Injury rates down 42%. Psychological wellness scores at all-time highs. Unit cohesion metrics exceeding projections. Because we stopped letting the strong brutalize the weak. Because we learned what humans have always known. Real strength isn't dominating others, it's lifting them up. In the training room below, Emma was laughing at something Zilak said, her genuine joy filling the space where once there'd been only pain and fear. She noticed the repaired wall and called up to the observation deck. "Hey, Commander, wall's looking good. Sorry again about that." "Worth it," Kael'thas called back. Emma grinned, gave a thumbs up, a human gesture the Academy had learned meant approval, and turned back to training. "What's she doing now?" Sinara asked. Kael'thas checked the schedule. Teaching a class on human tactical philosophy, something called No One Left Behind, an introduction to pack bonding. Pack bonding? Human term for their tendency to form intense protective relationships with their team members. Apparently, it's considered essential to human military effectiveness. And now we're teaching it academy-wide. "We're learning it academy-wide," Kael'thas corrected. "There's a difference. We're not just copying human techniques, we're understanding the philosophy behind them. Protection over domination, cooperation over competition, strength in unity rather than individual superiority. The old ways served us for centuries. The old ways produced cadets like Vexthul who confused cruelty with strength." Kael'thas gestured to the training room. "The new ways produce whatever this is, and I know which I prefer." Below, Emma had organized the cadets into mixed species teams. They worked through tactical scenarios that required cooperation between different biological capabilities. A flying species providing aerial reconnaissance for ground-based hunters. A species with enhanced hearing coordinating with visual specialists. Strengths combining instead of competing. "She doesn't even realize she revolutionized our military," Sinara observed. "She thinks she just stopped some bullies." They watched as Emma demonstrated a combat role, executed it perfectly, then immediately tripped over her own feet, trying to show it again. The entire room erupted in laughter, including Emma. "Humans," Sinara said, shaking her head. "Humans," Kael'thas agreed, "teaching us that strength and humility can coexist. That protecting others doesn't make you weak, it makes you necessary. That the strongest warrior isn't the one who dominates, but the one others trust to have their back. Ancestors help us if humans ever decide we're a threat. Ancestors help anyone who threatens something humans are protecting." Kael'thas smiled slightly. "I've seen the analysis. Full human combat potential, if fully unleashed, would make most of our fleets obsolete. They're physically capable of terrifying levels of destruction. Yet she used that strength to protect one weak cadet. Because that's what humans do. That's who they are. And now, thanks to one human girl who broke a wall before a kick could land, that's who we're learning to be." In the training room, class ended. Cadets dispersed, chattering excitedly about new techniques learned, new friends made across species lines. Emma helped Zilax pack up equipment, the two of them discussing plans for later. "You want to grab lunch?" she asked. "I heard the cafeteria's trying to make human pizza. I'm morbidly curious what that'll taste like with 17 different alien ingredients." "Pizza? Oh man, you're in for a treat, or possibly food poisoning. Either way, adventure." They walked out together, human and insectoid, former victim and his protector, now simply friends laughing about cafeteria food. Behind them, Training Room 7's plaque caught the light. "True strength protects, never dominates." One human had broken a wall, and in doing so had rebuilt an entire military's understanding of what strength meant. Emma Johnson, unremarkable exchange cadet with average test scores, had changed the galaxy one stopped kick at a time, and she still didn't understand what all the fuss was about.